You're listening to the ESO Network, your station for all things geek.
I'm Drew Leiter.
And I'm Cletus Jacobs.
And welcome to episode 7 of the Legends of the DCU Podcast. Tonight we're talking Green Arrow number 22 through issue number 31 and The Sandman, season 2, episode 6, Time and Night. But before we get into that, let's talk some DC news. All right, Cletus, first up for DC news, the sequel to Batman Hush has been facing delays, and writer Jeff Loeb recently explained why. Speaking at Emerald City Comic Con, Loeb told fans that delays largely come down to the workload of artist Jim Lee, who is not only drawing the series, but also serving as DC's publisher and helping with major projects like the upcoming Man of Steel film promotion. The final issue of the current arc, Batman number 163, which includes the first part of Hush 2, has now been pushed back to May 27, 2026, nearly 9 months later than originally planned. Despite the delays, Loeb reassures fans that the story is far from over. The next phase, titled Hush 3, is expected to continue the saga into 2027. So basically telling us what we already knew.
The audacity to tease for another story after that is remarkable, Drew.
I know, but it sounds like they're going to go ahead for it. It might not be finished till 2029, but it's coming. Neither one of us have anything to say about it.
I have nothing good to say. I mean, it's nothing I haven't already said. This is, if the artist on this was anything other than the literal boss of DC, there's no way this would fly.
All right, well, let's move on to our last bit of DC news, and what I bet we're both itching to talk about, and that's the Lanterns trailer. And I probably watched the thing about 10 times now. I'm so excited. I'm excited and a little disappointed. And what I'm disappointed about is we got no ring slinging during the trailer.
I think that was intentional.
I know it was intentional. I could tell when I watched it, it was intentional. They're just whetting our appetite, and the fans online are going freaking crazy.
Yeah, it is. I'd say Green Lantern fans in particular have not really had a particularly warm reception to the trailer. And I get it. I mean, the only other big Green Lantern project we got was a huge bomb with the Ryan Reynolds movie, which was, insanely disappointing to me at the time when it came out. And so I get a lot of the oh, here we go again. But there wasn't anything in the trailer that I explicitly didn't like. I mean, the costume, we're seeing it hanging up in a closet. Does it look different in action? If there's actual Green Lantern energy going on, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. I just think there's a lot of hand-wringing and a lot of assumptions, I think, based on this trailer that people are making that I don't think we know, right? Like, you don't see any ring slinging, so I think there's been some people thinking we're not going to see that almost at all, which is possible, but it also could be that we see quite a bit of it, Drew. Like, I don't think we can know that yet. I don't know. For me, the stuff that would I have liked to have seen some constructs? Yes, I definitely would have. And do I think it would have been a good idea for them to have had at least one? Probably, right? Like, I think you maybe needed to have at least one to make people feel better about it. You know what I'm saying? I don't know that it was a wise decision to not have any. But we'll see. It's just a teaser. The big thing that I was looking for was characterization, and I liked Hal a lot. Made me wish that they had cast Kyle Chandler as Hal Jordan years ago, so we could have gotten more out of him than this. I liked what we got with John. I don't know, man. Like, the premise of the show is still very intriguing to me. I really like the actors playing the characters, and I think that goes a long way with what we got. You know what I mean? So, yeah, if we get the show and they mostly just, like, beat around the bush and always kind of cut off screen right as they're about to actually be lanterns, yeah, I probably would have a problem with that, Drew, but I don't know that that's going to be the case. And I know there was a lot of people also concerned that we don't see them do anything in space, and they might not go to space at all, but that seems unlikely. I think we have to wait and see, Drew. We've got a lot of time until this show comes out. There's probably going to be at least at minimum one other pretty detailed trailer coming out for the show until then. So I don't know. I'm reserving judgments. I understand why people are hesitant? Yes, I get it. Am I there? No. I am still optimistic because the stuff that appealed to me about the premise of the show, the just the basic premise of Hal training John, I like a lot. The premise of it being, essentially a detective story with the two of them investigating something, I like that a lot. I like the actors playing the two main characters quite a lot, Drew, and nothing in the trailer changed my opinion on the core of what interested me about the show.
Yeah, I'm very excited by what I've seen. I bet they're holding off the construct stuff until we get the second trailer. And the other thing I felt when I was watching it felt like I was watching a bunch of scenes from the first couple episodes.
Yes.
And it didn't feel like we were getting that deep into the show. So to me, it felt like we're only seeing clips from the first or second episodes, and they were keeping it that way on purpose. They don't want to reveal too much, but what we saw a lot of character interaction, and I like that. And it felt Silver Agey to me. I don't know about you, but
Uh,
it did to me a little bit. I'm pretty sure that Hal Jordan in the Silver Age didn't create his costume from his ring.
yeah, I think you're right.
So I think they're taking some stuff from the Silver Age. And the other thing we didn't get is why Hal is training John. In the comics, something happens to Guy, and that's why they bring John Stewart in. And they may be going with that here too. Maybe something happens to Guy that
I
takes him
don't.
off the table, and they bring in John.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that's possible, Drew. Just based on the trailer, though. I mean, it could be a joke or setting up something later because we know that Guy is in the show. That was the other thing. There was a lot of hand wringing about the comment Hal makes that there's no other human lanterns. They're like, well, what about Guy? We know Guy is in the show. It's not like the show forgot that. So, that one was one that I really didn't understand the criticism. I was like, he's literally in the show, so I don't know what you could possibly be complaining about. But based on that comment, I'm not so sure that they're training John to be the replacement for Guy. If anything, I thought pretty explicitly being trained to be Hal's replacement.
That could be. I've heard rumors that, oh, they're going to kill off Hal and stuff like that. I'm not so sure about that, but it's possible. And, the other thing I've heard is the costume we see hanging up could be an older costume too that Hal used to wear. Then I hear people complaining it's not green enough, and there's all sorts of stuff I've been hearing.
Yeah, the big thing for me with the costume is would I like a more green in the costume? Sure, but it's also hanging up in a closet. So, and you can argue whether it should be able to hang up in a closet, and I that's a fair argument. But fundamentally, we don't actually know what it looks like. It's not any different, I don't think, Drew, than when we get like on set photos of people in their costumes and we're like, oh, I don't know what that's going to look like. It often looks completely different, right, in action than what it does in a still before all the movie magic happens. So I really don't have strong opinions about the costume until we actually see him wearing it and in action. Then we can talk about it. I will say the only thing that, as a Hal Jordan fan, that made me feel, I mean, not uncomfortable isn't the right word, but a little bit like, oh no. I got really strong vibes, Drew, that they're going to kill him. I know that that's been a rumor floating around about the show, and who knows if it's true or not, but just explicitly watching the show, I was like, this doesn't feel like a show about a character in which both characters survive.
Yeah, yeah, it does have that vibes, doesn't it?
Yeah, and that again, that I'm not speaking to, obviously, there's been a lot of smoke about that. And, the showrunners themselves have said that this is John's show, and that's fine. That I mean, Hal was the lantern that brought me into it, so I have some bias towards him. Drew, I have to admit, watching the trailer, if anything, only fed into my fear that they're going to kill him. So I hope that that's not true, but I don't know, man. I got pretty strong vibes when I was watching that.
One of my favorite things is when he asks about the other lanterns. Have you talked to the other lanterns? And he mentions Chip.
Yeah.
One of them's a squirrel. So I'm hopeful that we'll get to see some of the other lanterns. It'd be cool to see Chip or Kilowog or somebody, but it'll be interesting to see. I have a feeling some of it is going to take place in space, but not till the end of the season is
I
my
yeah,
feeling.
I think it's pretty clear a lot of it's going to be Earth based, but like I mean, yeah, I would rather see it in space, but I don't know that they make that show, Drew. That would be so much more expensive. I don't know if the show even gets made if you insist on it being a true space show, right? And if I have to choose between a primarily Earth-based lantern show or no lantern show, I'm personally going to take the Earth-based one. That's just me. I'd rather see something than nothing.
Yeah, we got to keep in mind that there is a budget. So, but yeah, I'm very excited about the show. So can't wait to get more, and I'm sure we'll get some more before the show airs in the summer. So
Yeah, I agree. And like I said, I understand a lot of the nervousness around the show. I feel a lot of it too because, it's not like Superman or Batman where you know for sure you're going to get another version of it eventually, right? Like Green Lantern there could be a chance that's the last one you see for 15 years minimum, right? So I get a lot of the hesitation and nervousness, but for me, it's way too early to be making decisions on that. And like I said, the core premise of the show still is very interesting to me, and the trailer did nothing to change my mind on that. So I'm very excited for it. I'm very hopeful. I still maintain also, Drew, so far, HBO has not missed on a DC adaptation, and that's subjective. And I know some people may disagree with me on that, but Watchmen, Penguin, those were really good. I've got to see a bad one first before I change my mind on that.
either way, I think even with all the buzz I've seen in the last week on this, I think a lot of fans are going to tune in, whether they like it or not initially. So, if it's good, people are going to stick around.
I agree. I agree. And again, the fact that it's on HBO is going to get lot of eyeballs on it, Drew. And if it can, I think that's the thing. I think a lot of people or a lot of Green Lantern fans understand that, like, if the show is good, there is some really, really great potential for us to get a lot more Green Lantern stuff in the near future, right? And the vice versa. If it flops, it might be even longer before the next time we get a Green Lantern project. So I get it. But for me, I'm still optimistic, which is, you know me, Drew, that's pretty rare. So,
Yes, it is. All right. Well, that wraps up DC news for this week. Let's take a short break. And when we come back, we'll talk Green Arrow.
Need a break from how horrible everything is? Check out the Flopcast, where we just obsess over Brady Bunch reruns, Brat Pack movies, Duran Duran videos, Super Friends cartoons, Dynamite magazines, and much more pop culture weirdness. So persist, resist, hang in there, and join us on the Flopcast for the silliest half hour of your week. We're on the ESO network and at flopcast.net. It'll be our little secret.
We're back. Let's talk Green Arrows number 22, 23, and 24, which is the story arc Freshwater Kills parts 5 through 7. Now, we had previously started this story arc before, so let's wrap it up here.
yeah, real quick, Drew, before we got in, I got a little confused when I started reading it because I hadn't remembered that we didn't finish that story. And my initial reaction to the what was it? Is it
Freshwater.
Freshwater, thank you. Was the swamp city in Poison Ivy. I was like, oh, are they pulling that city into a Green Arrow story? And then as I got into the first issue that we're talking about this week, I was like, oh, wait, no, 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 no. I've read this. I've read the first part of this. I remember now.
Green Arrow follows Detective Benitez to the troubled town of Freshwater, where her investigation into the Freshwater Killer spirals after they discover multiple townspeople dressed as the murderer, each warped by the trauma of the poisoned water that once devastated the community. In the chaos, Arrow the dog is injured while protecting them, and Benitez is captured and taken to the abandoned local school, now a hideout for the cult-like group claiming the killer's identity. Suspended over a vat of the same toxic water that sickened the town, Detective Benitez is nearly baptized by the group before Green Arrow fights his way through the ranks, rescues her, and exposes how the poisoning fractured Freshwater into a community willing to kill to protect its secrets. In the aftermath, Oliver Queen visits the jailed leader of the Freshwater Killer group and announces that the Brenda Gordon Environmental Group will rebuild, repurpose, and innovate in Freshwater using renewable resources, an effort meant to honor the victims and begin righting long-standing wrongs. As Green Arrow, he then confronts Horton Chemicals CEO Max, presenting him with a list of the disaster's victims and declaring them his next major investment. Whatever they need, he'll bankroll, turning accountability into a new business plan. With justice set in motion on multiple fronts, Oliver Queen finally makes it home in time for family dinner. It had been a bit since we had read the first part of it, so it took me a little bit to get back into the story. I thought the story was okay. I didn't think it was anything that exciting, honestly, Cletus.
Yeah, I think I agree completely, Drew. It was fine. The one thing I think would have helped, amongst other things, I think one thing that would have helped the story is while we get resolution with the ringleader of the group, and obviously the story overall is very much not blaming the group for what they're doing. I would have liked a little more resolution with the rest of the followers. There seems to be basically no follow-up or fallout for them. And like, come on, Drew. The entirety of the group all gets to walk away. I get it. I know that the book is very much blaming, the chemical company, which is fair. I don't disagree with that, Drew, but like give me some sort of follow-up from Oliver, hiding like the fact that other people, you know what I mean? Like it was known that other people were involved. I don't know how we didn't get some sort of acknowledgement of them making that part go away. I can be okay with them making it go away, Drew, but them not acknowledging at all that there was a crowd of 60 people that were about 2 minutes away from drowning her to death. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not going to argue with you about that. They should have addressed that somehow, but they didn't. They just focused on the leader and wrapped this up. I just thought it was an okay story.
I agree. It was fine.
All right, let's move on to our next story arc. Crimson Sands, which is Green Lantern's number 25 through 30. Green Arrow and Arsenal's latest case begins with a chaotic chase through the Star City Arts and Culture Museum, where they crash straight into Corto Maltese exhibit, curated by Albert Noyce, while apprehending Count Vertigo. After the dust settles, the two heroes retreat to Oliver's apartment, shedding their costumes and sharing a rare moment of nostalgia about their early days as Green Arrow and Speedy. But the night takes a dark turn when Roy, walking home alone, discovers a dying man struck by a red arrow, and is then ambushed and shot with a drug-laced arrow himself by a mysterious archer in crimson. Oliver soon receives a call from Dinah informing him that Roy is in the hospital, overdosed on a potent compound known as Crimson Sand. Determined to find the attacker, Green Arrow follows the trail and uncovers a shocking truth. The Crimson Archer is Herb Branny, a man Oliver believed had died during a mission in Cambodia. Branny survived, reinvented himself, and resurfaced in Star City under a new identity, Albert Noyce, the very curator whose exhibit Oliver and Roy had disrupted earlier. As Oliver hunts for Noyce's hidden lab, where the Crimson Sand plant is cultivated, Roy and his daughter channel their own recovery experience to help a young woman struggling with addiction. The investigation culminates in a showdown at Noyce's secret facility, where Green Arrow confronts the Crimson Archer just as the villain attempts to escape by helicopter. Arsenal and his daughter arrive to back up Oliver, turning the confrontation into a full team effort. In the final struggle, the Crimson Archer is struck by one of his own overdose-tipped arrows and falls from the rooftop, ending his deadly scheme and closing a painful chapter that forced both Oliver and Roy to confront ghosts from their past. Now, this story, Cletus, I liked a lot more. I thought it was more interesting, mysterious, and I liked the introduction to this villain who obviously we're going to see sometime in the future, possibly if another writer picks it up.
That's funny, Drew, because I thought this one was significantly worse.
You didn't like it as much, huh?
No, I really did not. I think a lot of it has to do with we had completely different takes on the villain, Drew. I totally understand you. Like the costume design of him, I think is really cool, but as a villain, I thought he was terrible. He was like a mustache twirling level villain. Like he was, what was his motivation for being bad, Drew? Like it was just like he was evil for evil's sake, which fits for like a Silver Age comic, but that's not what this book has been going for. You know what I mean? Like if it was going for like a world's finest kind of feel to the book, I would understand, but this wants to be a modern Green Arrow book, and the villain felt like I was reading a 1970s Green Arrow villain. He was just, it was so black and white and like, oh, I'm a bad guy because I'm a bad guy. And you got rid of me once, and that made me more of a bad guy. So now I'm a bad guy this way too. And it was just like, oh, it was just no nuance at all.
Yeah, I guess now that you point that out and I think about it, his motivation, it wasn't like he was after Oliver Queen, was he? He was just randomly taking out people on the street. I like the story, I guess. And maybe it's just because it felt old school. I don't know.
Yeah,
Maybe,
no, and Drew, again, to be clear, it's totally subjective. Like I said, I like the design of the Crimson Archer. I think in theory the idea of that character could be interesting, but for me what we got out of it was just too there was just no depth to his character. Like he was just bad for being bad. There, you know what I mean? Like there was potential, you know, with the potential revenge angle with Oliver taking him out. I guess, you know, there was something there, but it was just very shallow as a character, and I felt like the story overall was very shallow. They don't even really do, in my opinion, Drew, they don't really do anything that interesting with the history with Roy as an addict. Like, they make guys seem like he knows that Roy was an addict, but then they don't reference that either knowledge or not, one way or the other again, right? Like, that doesn't cut, that comes up in a tease at the beginning of the story, and then it never really gets referenced again. And then they just don't do anything particularly interesting. Like at one point, after he's been shot, and he gets out of the hospital, he kind of grimaces, and it's unclear whether he's really okay or not. And I thought they might play a little bit more with the fact that he is an addict, right? Like he's certainly recovering, right? And he's been sober for many, many years, but his body just got reintroduced to drugs. Like there's something interesting there, Drew, where we could have shown him struggling with like, you know, fighting against fully relapsing, right? Like obviously he didn't choose to get shot by the drugged arrow, right? But the drugs ended up in his system nonetheless. How does he deal with that? How does he struggle with that? Because I don't believe that he would just like bounce back from it immediately and go and solve a murder. Like that's just not it's more nuanced than that, and there wasn't that nuance in the comic. And that was sort of I thought symbolic of, for me, the whole storyline. I thought there was potential for interesting things, and I just felt, honestly, Drew, for lack of a better word, it felt Williamson-esque, where there was like some intriguing ideas that were really poorly executed by the writer.
don't tell me I like a story that's William-esque. But I see what you mean. You're right. There wasn't much depth to the villain. I agree with you there. They could have gone deeper into that. But maybe I'm guessing I like this story a little better than the other one, because the other one I just thought was mediocre, and I wasn't that interested in it, honestly. And I found this one more interesting.
And that's totally fair. Like I said, my opinion is completely subjective. Fundamentally, the core between this story and the other story isn't different. It's the same writer and artist, right? It's the same characterization. Just for me, the villain didn't land with me, and I think if the villain doesn't land with you, there's nothing a storyline can do.
That is true. All right, let's move on to the last story in this Green Arrow series. Praying, Green Lantern number 31. Detective Lena Benítez stands alone on a rooftop overlooking Star City when Green Arrow joins her, the two sharing a quiet moment in the aftermath of the Crimson Archer case. She tells him she should arrest him for the chaos at Advance Medical, but Green Arrow pushes back. He didn't create the mess, he exposed it. Detective Benitez then reveals something unsettling. Despite the fall, the Crimson Archer's body was never recovered. The uncertainty lingers between them as the conversation shifts from the case to something far more personal. Detective Benitez opens up about her childhood, how her mother died of cancer, leaving her alone with a father whose grief curdled into anger and drinking. She became the target of his frustration, blamed for things she never caused, forced to clean up after his outbursts. The roof they stand on now was once her refuge, a place where she could escape the shouting and look out at the world that felt bigger than her pain. She became a cop to help people, to be the kind of presence she once needed. And then she tells Green Arrow something he never expected. One night, as a frightened little girl, unable to sleep in the dark, she met Green Arrow on this very roof. He gave her a flashlight, her first moment of safety since her mother's death, and the fear that had gripped her for years finally loosened. Back in the present, Detective Benitez returns the flashlight to him, saying someone else out there might need it now. Sirens rise in the distance, pulling Green Arrow back into the night. As he fires a grapple and disappears across the skyline, Detective Benitez watches him go and quietly thanks him for the light he gave her then, and the one he still carries into the darkness. I liked the ending to this series. I thought this was a nice wrap-up. And they introduced this detective, I believe is at the beginning of the Freshwater story arc. And since it got canceled, I thought this was a good way to end their story, their run.
Yeah, I agree with you, Drew. I thought it was very heartfelt, a nice, warm way to end the story and show, in a very Green Arrow way, the way that he has always attempted to have more of an impact on the common man, right, than the bigger umbrella threats that can sometimes loom in the DC universe. And I thought they hit on the DNA of the character well with that, Drew. I agree. One thing that I thought throughout this series that, I don't know about you, Drew, that felt odd to me, it especially felt odd at the end of this series, was he's very much in a relationship with Black Canary, and the book does not try to suggest anything different. But I felt like before this issue, his relationship was always very flirty with the detective, and I know part of that's just Oliver, right? But nonetheless, a very flirty relationship, I felt with the detective. And then this episode, you get the flashbacks to her as a little girl looking up to him. And I was like, that just makes it feel weird now.
Now that you mention it, yes, that makes it feel weird. And I have to agree with you. There was a lot of flirtiness between Oliver and her. Especially there's one scene in particular that I remember of her kind of brushing her hair, kind of flirtingly. You know, kind of like she was blushing at kind of like a blushing kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that did stick out in my mind. And now that you mentioned and how the story at the end is, yeah, it is kind of gives you the ick, doesn't it?
Yeah.
All right. Anything else you want to say about this before we wrap it up?
We've read worse Green Arrow books, Drew. I thought this was just okay. I'm not shocked that it got canceled. I'm sure the sales were just not there. It was fine. That was that's like, I just don't know that and just okay Green Arrow book is good enough to survive, and clearly it wasn't.
Yeah, clearly. All right. Well, that wraps up our comic books talk for this week. Let's take a short break, and when we come back, we'll talk the Sandman.
We're Sean and Leah, and this is Have Coffee, Will Travel.
The show where caffeine fuels our hot takes on movies, pop culture, travel misadventures, and whatever weird thing happened in the news this week.
Basically, we drink coffee and pretend it makes us smarter.
It doesn't, but it does make us funnier.
So grab your mug.
And your sense of adventure.
And
join us for Have Coffee, Will Travel. Because life's too short for bad coffee and boring podcasts.
All right, let's talk the Sandman, Season 2, Episode 6, Time and Night. Dream stands in his gallery and holds Destiny's sigil. He reveals to his brother that he spilled family blood by killing his son at his request. The goddesses of vengeance, whom they call the Kindly Ones, will soon demand the end of his existence as punishment for his crime. Dream wants to know what is written in Destiny's book. Destiny states he can see it for himself and shows him blank pages. One's destiny is determined by one's actions. Dream asks him of fate. Destiny states that is a question for the Fates. The Fates are working in their home when there is a knock on the door. The Fates are surprised. They haven't seen a visitor in ages. It is Morpheus. How surprising. The Fates wonder why he is here. They already cut his cord. The crone states that sometimes it takes a while for them to notice. The Fates invite him in. When Dream last met them, he summoned them to the dreaming. He thought it was only just that he come to them this time. He brought gifts, wine, some herbs, and a weasel, which had to do with Hecate.
Yeah, as a snack, apparently.
Yeah, I didn't get that either. I thought it had some sort of magical something or other, is kind of what they hinted at. But then the crone was talking about eating it. So I was like, okay.
I guess whatever works for them.
Dream states he is not here to plead for his life, but for the lives of those he serves. He has responsibilities. The Fate states that if someone petitions them to avenge a blood crime, they are bound by law to do so. But until that time, they can do nothing. The Fates state several names. The boy's mother, Calliope, Lucifer Morningstar, and Desire. Desire once swore she'd make him spill family blood. Is that something that was from season 1, Cletus?
I think maybe it was Drew, but it's definitely been more strongly talked about and hinted at in this season. Seeing him reference that threat quite a bit before he finally actually does with his son last episode. So clearly they had this in mind that they were building towards, this season. But I do feel like we heard that as a threat last year. As we're not big Sandman fans, I don't know that that line meant that much to us last year.
Yeah. So I think I mentioned a few episodes ago that I thought Desire was trying to manipulate something, and possibly this could have been it. But I guess we'll see. We'll see if it plays out or not. Dream visits Loki and Puck. Loki is disguised as the Pope and Puck as the Cardinal. Dream is calling in his favor. To be free of Dream, Loki can do what Dream has asked, but not at the time Dream has determined. They could be the ones to set the kindly ones upon him. Back in his realm, Dream reveals to Lucien and the others that he has chosen a successor for his realm. His name is Daniel Hall, son of Lita and Hector, the second child conceived in the dreaming. In time, he will possess power and insight far beyond Dream. Daniel Hall will be the new Dream of the Endless. Back on Earth, Daniel Hall is only 8 months old. His guardians move into a house his mother has inherited. Puck disguises himself as Simon the valet, who is preparing Daniel's nursery. I'm going to stop here for a minute because we know that Dream is cashing in a favor with Loki, but I was kind of confused what that favor was, because it looked like they were trying to kidnap that kid.
Well, we know that Puck tells Loki his plan is essentially do exactly what Morpheus asked you to do, but do it right now, right? Because the implication is that it's the plan, whatever he's been asked to do is supposed to happen later. And Loki is choosing instead to technically follow the instructions, right? But to not do it at the right time, which is super trickstery, which is what Puck wants. So I don't know, Drew. I don't know what it was exactly they were supposed to do. I would presume it was something like take him to the dream realm or bring him somewhere. And so they're technically doing that, but not when they're supposed to do it. I don't know, Drew. I think we're going to need more context next episode to be clear exactly what it is they were supposed to do, because I agree it looks like kidnapping, but I would assume that's because the actual request would have been to bring him somewhere, right?
Yeah, that makes sense. But I was a little confused by what they were trying to do, and I'm guessing you're right. They're going to explain it next episode.
There was one shot, Drew, I think it maybe is towards the end of the episode, where Puck is quite pleased with their mischief, having obtained the baby, and Loki doesn't appear to be as enthused about it. So I'm kind of curious how that will play out next episode. I kind of wonder if there's going to be some disagreements between the two.
Very possible. Nuala comes to Dream wondering if she can build an army for him, but Dream states it will not help. The law is the law. Nuala asks Dream who wrote these laws. Dream answers that there are authorities beyond the endless. Nuala asked who they are. And me personally, I thought this was the most interesting part of the episode, what we're about to get into.
I agree.
Dream explains that before the beginning, there was the night, and the night was without boundaries and without end. In the beginning was time, the relentless beat in which things could happen, in which everything could become. Matter could exist. In that coming together, the universe was possible, all versions of it. They exist as he wishes it. Such is the nature of time in his realm. Dream visits his father, Time. Dream knew his father wouldn't help him, but Dream wanted to thank him for everything he has given him, for his existence. Dream came here to say goodbye. Time suggests that if he were to perhaps send Dream back in time so he could go to Hades on his son's behalf, Hades would still refuse him. Dream's son would still find his way to the underworld, no matter what Dream does. Time states the only help he could give Dream is in the peace that comes from knowing it could not be other than it was. There is nothing Dream could have done to save his son, just as Dream cannot save himself now. Dream asks his father about the blank pages in Destiny's book, and Time reveals that the specific of Dream's death may be unwritten, but make no mistake, Destiny's book will have an ending, and so does Dream. Time asks Dream if he has visited his mother, and Dream has not. Time tells Dream that if he does see his mother, let her know that Time was thinking of her.
Drew, I really, really enjoyed this scene. I very much enjoyed the actor they got to play Time, and I thought he was really good in this role. I liked it a lot. I mean, he just nails how kind of aloof and uninvested Time is in his offspring, and it gives you a lot of insight into why Dream and the rest of the family are the way that they are. So good, Drew. I mean, heartbreaking, right? That's what that relationship is like, but very, very well done scene. And when we go to the next scene too, I like that one too. Like you said, Drew, I thought the meeting with his parents, just the highlight of the episode, and really, for me, I think potentially the highlight of the season. I just thought both were really good. I kind of wish we could get a little more with them. I mean, it makes sense to not do that, and I don't think that they should do that, Drew, but like that's how good both of them were. I could have watched more with both of them.
Yeah, I agree with you. I really like the interaction with his parents too. And it's funny because I can't remember if his father said it or if his mother says it or if it was just a narration of some sort. But they say that Dream was closer with his mother, and that may be true, but it didn't really feel like it. You know what I mean? Because both of the parents seem to be not invested in their children. You know what I
Or
mean?
yeah, not maybe totally nailing the whole parent thing. The mom, Drew, I would not argue that Dream is closer to her because it's impossible to be close to somebody that had literally nothing to do with his son, right? Like the bar for Time is zero. So the fact that his mom has any relationship with him would be like doubling or tripling the relationship he has with his dad.
That is very true.
But you're right. You're right. Because, like you said, Time makes it seem like they're a lot closer. And then when you see the scene, they're not. I mean, they are closer than he is with his dad. That is true. But it doesn't feel very warm, right? Man, Drew, I really enjoyed these scenes. And I enjoyed the little insight that it gives you into the rest of the Endless, too. Like, you kind of like, oh, a lot of this makes sense.
Yeah,
I
it sure.
also really liked, Drew, I really liked the scene with his dad where his dad is saying like I want like it's weakness to even offer to help you and all this blah blah blah, but then he does kind of crack a little bit when Morpheus basically shows the same love for his dad that Orpheus showed him. I loved that mirroring of that, like I love you because you're my dad, and it does. Time doesn't want to admit it, but you can see it kind of get to him, and I think that's why he offers the advice of like, hey, I mean, I'm not going to help you, but it was like an interesting clarification where like part of him feels like I don't think initially he felt any need to clarify, but he does suddenly feel the need to clarify that like, hey, I'm not going to help you, but a big reason why I'm not going to help you is it wouldn't make any difference. Like I could send you back in time and you could do it a completely different way and the same events are still going to play out. It is what it is. Drew, felt that was a very profound moment because I think that's about as close to help as Time could give, which is essentially telling him like, even if I wanted to, I couldn't actually do anything. So this isn't just me being a jerk, although I am a jerk. It's not 100% that.
Dream visits his mother, Night. She tells Dream that he is naughty not to have called first. She values her privacy and does not like to be disturbed. Dream reminds her that that is a trait they share, which I thought was funny. Night asks Dream to have some wine with her and talk about his siblings. Dream reveals that he saw his father and reveals that his father misses her. Night chuckles, stating if Dream thinks she and he coming together in one glowing union will fix everything, that is wrong. That together they will rewrite the law of the universe and save him from the kindly ones, it is not going to happen. The only thing Night can offer her son is to make a perfect little dream world here, with a partner and a relationship. Dream would be safe there and close to his mother. Dream could see her whenever he liked, when she is not working. Dream declines her offer. He has his realm and his responsibilities. Night states that Dream has always been selfish. Everything always had to be his way or no way at all. She states that the rest of them don't exist to him except as a means to an end. Now Dream has his end, and she will leave him to it. She does offer him a solution that he doesn't like.
Yeah.
Clarican returns to the Dreaming to retrieve his sister. The Queen wants her back now that the Furies are coming for Lord Morpheus. Morpheus asks Nuala how she feels about it, and Nuala states she does not want to go back. Lord Morpheus reveals that he has spoken with the authorities, and he thinks that it would be safer for Lady Nuala to return to her people. Back on Earth, while Lita and Rose are out for a date night, Puck has killed off the staff and taken Daniel. Back in the Dreaming, Lady Nuala is about to leave. Lord Morpheus offers her a gift. It is a necklace. If she is in need, she's to hold the stone in her hands and call to him, and he will come to her and offer her a boon. Dream informs Lucianne, Gilbert, Matthew, and Mervyn Pumpkinhead to take shelter in the other realms until such a time it is safe for them to return after his death. There is nothing anyone can do to keep the kindly ones from performing their duties, and from this day forward, the future of the Dreaming is Daniel Hall.
Very intriguing episode, Drew. I love the groundwork that this lays for the end of the show. In the air of inevitability that it has, like, I am not particularly under the illusion that Dream is going to survive this, Drew. I feel like the show is making it very clear that there's nothing he can do about it, and it's more about what he can do for everybody else with the time that he's got until whenever the Furies come for him. I like it, Drew. I like it. I'm very curious to see how the rest of the season unfolds with this story. I think it's a really good way to wrap up a show.
I think so too. And I'm not under any delusions that Dream is going to survive this. It feels very much like a setup that by the end of the series that Daniel Hall will be the new Dream.
I got to admit, Drew, so I have not read Sandman, but it was a Vertigo title, and I remember, I want to say it was maybe Brightest Day, because I don't know if you remember this, Drew, in the Blackest Night stuff, the follow-up DC story was Brightest Day that brought a lot of dead heroes and villains back to life. And I kind of think there was references to Daniel Hall specifically. Like, that name kind of rung a bell for me, Drew.
Okay, I didn't remember it, so
I don't know if it did for you, and maybe I'm off my rocker, but I might check later. But I was like, that name seemed familiar to me beyond the show. To be clear, beyond the show, and not from knowledge of Sandman, 'cause I don't know. So yeah, I don't know, Drew. I'm really interested to see how this show wraps up.
yeah, I'm curious how it's going to wrap up too. And the necklace that Lord Morpheus offers Nuala, I was curious about how that's going to play into things. And yeah, I'm interested in see how this ends for sure. All right, well that wraps up our episode for this week. Do you have a shout out, Cletus?
Yeah, I wanted to shout out, obviously, the major story that the Green Arrow story arc that we reviewed is referencing the very famous Snowbirds Don't Fly story from Green Lantern, Green Arrow. And that is specifically issues number 85 and 86 in that book. Came out in 1971. Very famous. I'm sure we've talked about it on the show several times. A big, big milestone from a DC history perspective. I recommend everybody check out at least once. I mean, it's certainly it's a comic from 1970, so it won't read the same way, but it's a comic now. But it's very good, and it's still impactful, as we can see from these Green Arrow issues. It still has a huge impact on the DC world today.
All right. And for my shout out, I'm going to shout out about our Patreon series. We're reviewing the Jeff Johns run of Green Lantern, as well as Bat Chums are reviewing the Batman 1943 series. And I got to tell you, Cletus, I'm having a blast reading Green Lantern stuff. I've even been reading extra credit stuff. After our bonus episode last week, we were talking about Secret Origin coming up and Boudica and what happened in Emerald Twilight. I went back and read Emerald Twilight. I'm having a blast. I read Emerald Twilight, and then I started going into Kyle Rayner's run. So I did a little extra credit reading last week. But yeah, if you haven't checked out our Patreon about the Jeff Johns Green Lantern run, Cletus and I are having a blast talking about it. If you love that run, read it along with us and listen to the episodes. All right, if you'd like to comment on anything we've talked about this week, you can reach us at our feedback line, 317-455-8411. Text us, leave us a message, or you can email us at legendsofthedcu@gmail.com. All right, Cletus, coming up next week, Absolute Green Lantern and our next episode of the Sandman. I don't know about you, but I'm excited about more Absolute Green Lantern.
I am too.
Can't get enough Green Lantern right now.
No.
All right, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
This has been a broadcast of the ESO Network. Be part of the crew and help support our shows by donating to our ESO Patreon or by shopping at the TeePublic store, which can all be found at www.esonetwork.com. The ESO Network, your station for all things geek.